Okay, welcome. My name is Scott Christensen. I am a faculty member at the University of Missouri. I'm in the management department, not the journalism department, but I happen to do a lot of work with folks in the journalism department and definitely love the work they're doing and love the work that's being done by the Alfred Friendly Press Partners, a almost 40-year-old organization that's been supporting journalism worldwide. And I think that's a fantastic mission, and I'm very honored to be invited to speak to you all here by that particular group. I'm not an AI expert by any means. I was kind of one of the early ones to recognize that this is going to have a big impact on our society, whether we liked it or not. And so I've gotten to think about these issues for a little bit, and certainly in 2 weeks from today, we will have a major election here in the United States for president, as well as quite a number of other races as well. So I want to do a little bit of level setting here as we first get started. And I do appreciate you all tuning in. We have several folks on the live stream, but I don't see many people on the Zoom. So maybe people are kicking back and watching this in front of their living room. So I appreciate you being here. So AI in the elections is kind of a controversial topic to talk about in some ways. Certainly, we've gotten to where we don't even talk about politics much here in the US if we want to be friends with folks or we want to have things copacetic around the dining table. But you see, I'm old enough, I got a little bit of gray hair right here. I'm a little bit old enough to remember a day when these two gentlemen, who were polar opposites politically, Ronald Reagan, Western conservative, kind of the idol of the Republican Party, even still today, and Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House, who was a stereotypical Boston liberal, if you will. And these two gentlemen would go out on various campaign and other political events and talk about how, oh, if Tip gets his way, the economy's going to crumble. There's going to be, it's just not going to work out at all. We're going to come back into stagflation. And Tip would go out and say, oh, if Ronnie gets his way, there's going to be no more middle class left, and so forth and so on. But then they'd come back and have a nice dinner together. They were actually genuinely friends. Okay. They respected each other. They had political differences. They differed in how we were going to solve these problems the nation faced. They agreed on the problems that we faced in many ways, but they had different tacks. And I think that's something that's changed for the worse in our country. I am fairly optimistic, or I don't know if I'd say optimistic, but I'm very much um, hopeful that we can get back to an age where we actually do have that type of sharing and being able to talk across political differences, back to the way it was when these two guys were around. And it looks like we got Jason on the Zoom. Very good. Jason, I've got a couple other folks that I'm streaming to here, but I appreciate you being there so that it's not just me feeling like I'm talking to an empty room. So I wanted to talk a little about AI and what does it really mean for us to define. And I want to put out some very simple definitions here. So artificial intelligence is a machine that exhibits cognitive or decision-making behavior to take action to achieve a goal. Certainly, we see this a lot with things like the movies, right? So we see some sort of generalized artificial intelligence, something that almost looks human or seems human. But a lot of what is really happening is what we call narrow AI. And there is, in fact, no pathway to this type of super intelligence. While certainly there's a lot of companies that try to hype things up, it's kind of like me saying, well, tomorrow I'm going to become a polymath and the day after that I'm going to become minor deity. It's just there's no pathway. It would be nice, hey, I'm pretty smart. Maybe I could be a polymath. Polymaths are kind of smart, but it's not really the same, right? Okay. And this is the same way that artificial intelligence is pretty smart, but it's not going to be a major deity or human like anytime soon. So a lot of what we see is this type of narrow AI where I always use the example of a Roomba because we can kind of relate to that and we can think about how we might program a Roomba. So if you came into our lab there at the business school, we would actually help you program a little robot and you could program it to go around like it was vacuuming up the floor. It would detect whether it was about to run into something, so forth and so on. So this is the way artificial intelligence was approached for many, many years, that people would actually try to program an algorithm and try to get this algorithm to, carry out this decision-making behavior to take action to achieve a goal. And that was fairly difficult, especially when you got into very complex things such as voice recognition. Well, a lot of what has happened to really transform this entire field has been the development of what we call machine learning. Okay, so machine learning is a way that we can actually have the machine or the computer figure out what is important in certain data sets and be able to determine patterns from that and maybe take action toward a goal. Now, in the past 10 years, there have been remarkable advances in something called deep learning. In fact, one of the so-called godfathers of AI recently shared a Nobel Prize for in physics, which the physicists were not exactly keen on, but a Nobel Prize in physics for a technique called deep learning, where we don't really even have to set up as many variables with the machine or the computer. We can let it figure everything out for us and write this algorithm. So a typical example would be something where we want to classify the images. So we classify a possum, a raccoon, a dog, or a cat. Now you and I can imagine, Jason and I could, meet up and over coffee for days and weeks and months and years, and maybe come up with some sort of programming that we could do that could identify the differences between between these animals. It's much simpler, however, to use this deep learning technique to set up what's called a neural network. And this neural network is basically has these input layers and some output layers. And there's a lot of layers in between. It can sometimes be millions of layers. But at each one of these little layers here, there's some statistics that's going on, some work that's being done to make it so that when we feed these images in, they always arrive at the right case. And so we set this up. We give our machine learning algorithm or our deep learning network 1,000 images or maybe 10,000 images of possums, 10,000 images of raccoons that we know are raccoons, and 10,000 images of cats and 10,000 images of dogs. And sure enough, it will actually be able to figure out which is which. So after it goes through this training, it can do this fairly well. And I would say as accurate as a human can. We do this in my class. This is actually a student, I think this is Grant right here, where he has figured out how to use his cell phone and it's identifying clocks or water bottles. He's only trained it on clocks and water bottles. So when it sees something else, it goes, that's not a clock or a water bottle. And that one there says it's a water bottle. This one took him about half an hour to do. So like I said, it's fairly easy to do this type of classification, but it's not going to be perfect. Okay, so if you had a different colored water bottle, things like that, it may not really work. And we also had a student that identified which of his two cats was coming up to him, but I refused to allow him to bring his cat into Cornell Hall. I have allowed dogs into classes as well, but no cats this time. So here's a little pop quiz for you. Just think about it. Here's the paper that came out. This is AI beats radiologists at pneumonia detection. How in the world would they do something like that? Well, it's really just as simple as what my student did with identifying clocks. Well, maybe not quite as simple, but um, you know, same idea as what the student is that identify clocks versus water bottles and identifying different wildlife in their backyard. They took 30,000 images of people that had pneumonia and that they knew had pneumonia. And they also took 30,000 images of people that didn't have pneumonia and they didn't think had pneumonia. So the controls, if you will. And they, oh, that my shirt is really, it was taking off my jacket there and it's really showing up poorly on the camera. So I'll put my jacket back on so it's not a distraction there. It's got a pattern in it. Um, and they also did the false positives and the false negatives. Okay. So four different data sets that they put in. And they were actually able to develop an algorithm, very much like the algorithm that identified the different animals, but this case looking at X-rays. Okay. And so this is going to have a tremendous, this type of machine learning is going to have a huge impact on our lives. It's going to have a huge impact on our health. And I think largely for a positive way. Now, I run our Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And so I'm very interested in seeing students think about a business that might actually make money sometime. I kind of consider that a little bit of an important aspect of business. We can't all be startups that never make money for 10 years. These are all companies that are developing these AI algorithms, and they are profitable, by and large, profitable and cash flowing. Okay, so this is a good business to be in, this type of machine learning algorithm. Now, how in the world might this affect us for elections? Well, you may have heard of FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Okay. So these are four companies that heavily use AI and have been using AI in the form of machine learning for decades. Okay. Facebook is using AI to figure out what to do to keep you on Facebook. Amazon is using uh, this algorithm to try to build a profile of you so they can categorize you. You know, are you a possum? Are you a cat? Or are you a dog, if you will? But in much more complex, they want to understand your behavior, right? Because this can work not just on image data, but also behavioral data. Netflix really wants to serve you up lots of addictive shows that you'll keep subscribing, and Google, of course, wants to sell you ads. Now, I tend to pick on just these two because they have not diversified any of their income streams. I mean, maybe a little bit. Facebook has some goggle things. Google has some phones. They're a very small percentage of their revenue. What is the purpose of these companies? Well, don't believe what they say. You know, Facebook is to connect you with your friends and all and family. Google is to make all the world's information accessible. Well, no, that is not the purpose. Really, their purpose is to get you ads for yogurt. Okay, so I put this up there because every time that you use Facebook or use Google, I want you to think about ads for yogurt. Their entire billion-dollar, trillion-dollar empire is built on serving up ads and serving up ads to people that are ready to buy when they're ready to click on it. Okay, so it's not about connecting you with your friends or family. That may be a side effect. It's not about serving you the world's information. That may be a side effect. It's really about getting you yogurt ads. And in fact, in the recent court documents that came out in the Google monopoly case, there was some emails that showed that they'd made a change that they knew would make Google search worse, and they didn't care because it meant people spent more time on site, and more time on site means more ads for yogurt. Okay. So just remember that. Now, what's the problem with ads for yogurt? Well, the problem is that these algorithms that have been developed are not in any way looking for spreading information that would be useful to people. In fact, what they're trying to do is really keep us in our own comfort zone. If I see a lot of stuff on Facebook that I don't agree with or don't like, doesn't fit into my worldview, I'm probably not going to log into Facebook. And so we get what we call filter bubbles. And there's been a lot written by some really great journalists about filter bubbles. And um, this is just an example of how these algorithms kind of think about different segmentation of the market. So they might think in some ways politically, right? So now the algorithm wouldn't necessarily say a political party, but here we have two bubbles. One's a right-leaning Republican pro-business filter bubble, and another one's a left-leaning Democrat pro-environment filter bubble. And we have news about climate change that's fact-based and is, true as much as anything is true in the world. News about excessive regulation of business. There is excessive regulation of business. Okay, I'm a former business owner. There are factual stories out there about that. But the algorithm is going to serve you up what you most want to hear. So if I'm that right-leaning Republican, I'm going to get the news about excessive business regulation, and I'm not going to hear about important news related to climate change. So when I do see something later that is about climate change, I might think, well, that is just a bunch of bunk. But this algorithm, in order to keep us on the site, has this effect of keeping us in the filter bubble. Likewise, if I was a left-leaning Democrat, I might think that there's no such thing as excessive regulation of business. Okay. And what's really weird about this, you think, okay, well, these two groups, there's these two things that are kind of these people that are in these filter bubbles. All we got to do is we got to show the left-leaning person some information about excessive regulation of business and the right-leaning person some news about climate change. But it turns out that will actually make people polarize more. Okay. Exposure to opposing views can increase political polarization. You dig in even more. This is from a place called the Polarization Lab. I should have had the URL ready to serve up, but you can just search for that. Okay. So I think our politics is becoming much more polarized because of machine learning algorithms that are being deployed. So because basically what's happening is our behavioral input is going into these systems and they're wanting to service up what should we be seeing in order to make us, see more ads for yogurt. That's really what these companies are about. Well, let's talk about another form of AI that you may be thinking, okay, Scott, you didn't talk about ChatGPT or any of this other weird image stuff, deep fakes. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about generative AI. Now, let's talk specifically about its use for something called deep fakes. So deep fake is a synthetic performance that appears to be that of a real known or unknown person. So this is a deep fake. This is an unknown person. This is not a real person. And I'll play this one here and it'll actually just give you an explanation of how deep fakes are created, I think.
Deepfakes and lifelike avatars like myself are most often created using generative adversarial networks, or GAN. These systems use two AI systems working against each other. One AI, the generative network, develops an image that predicts a person's appearance and sound when performing an action or saying certain words. The other AI, the discriminator, acts as the judge to determine if the generator's work is acceptable. In the beginning, it takes a bit for the generator to get good at making images and sounds. Just like the first time you tried to draw an animal in art class, it didn't look like the animal you were trying to draw. But with feedback from your teacher, who knew what the drawing should look like, you got better and better. Likewise, with the help of the discriminator, the generative AI gets better and better very quickly, and pretty soon, its work makes it past the discriminator.
So one thing that video is from at least 3 years ago that I made that. Okay. And one thing I want you to realize when we're going through this is I'm going to give you a couple examples, but digital applications tend to improve at an exponential rate. Okay. So we are not used to exponentials. If my world worked in exponentials, I would do 2 push-ups today, then I'd do 4 tomorrow, then I'd do 8 the next day, then I'd do 16 and 32 and 64 and 128 and 256 and 512 and 1024. 10 days from now, I'm going to be doing 1024 push-ups all right in a row. Well, our world doesn't work like that. Maybe I'd be lucky to do 3 in 10 days from now. But computers do work this way. Okay, so here's a deep fake from probably it was nearly 6 years ago now. And this is President Obama.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things.
Okay, so this is actually a technology that was used, like I said, about 6 years ago. It took about 30 people about an entire month to make that. Okay, it was Jordan Peele made it as kind of a demo. And you can see some artifacts around Obama's face there, some blemishes. It looks like it's off, right? But let's watch this one.
In this reel, you're going to see my amigo, Chris Umi. He's going to introduce to you the wonderful world of deepfakes, how AI and VFX are unlocking the future of our imagination. What's up, TikTok? You guys cool if I play some sports?
So you can just search deepfake Tom Cruise and find all sorts of examples. This is one person that is technical, doing this in about a day. It's about all it's taking to make these deepfakes. And then about a year and a half, 18 months ago, we saw this. And this is an example from America's Got Talent. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit here. And you can see what happens.
Part of this wonderful, unique, original thing they're going to do, I couldn't say no.
Well, look, you're very mysterious. I don't want to ask anything else. Good luck.
Okay, Daniel, take it away.
So much. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
What did they put together?
That is quite a camera.
So here we have a deep fake being done in real time. So this is being done in real time. Like I said, it was nearly 2 years ago now. But a pretty convincing deep fake. It wasn't, 100%, but pretty good deep fake of Simon Cowell. And once again, these things improve at an exponential rate, and they tend to become I've lost my cursor here. There it is. They can tend to become cheap, easy, and democratized. It's available to anyone. This is something I made over the summer, and it's a deep fake of me. And I used just 1 minute of video that I happened to sample down from YouTube.
Welcome to the fall semester of 2150 here at Mizzou. I'm excited to have you join me for this project management course, where we'll explore the cutting-edge techniques and groundbreaking projects that have shaped our world over the past year.
Okay, not the greatest. In fact, I think I'm wearing the same jacket. The but it's fairly easy to do. I did not do any programming or anything. I just uploaded a sample clip. I then uploaded a script of what I wanted to have myself say. So this is very difficult to figure out what is a deep fake and what is not. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of this technology is being used in some very nefarious ways. It's being used for scams. So, what we call business email compromise is really now turning into this kind of deep fake compromise. Um, and AI, what is the role that it's going to play? So, we see things that are really poor deep fakes. So, here's one.
Today is today. And yesterday was today, yesterday. Tomorrow will be today, tomorrow.
Okay, a horrible deep fake, and it's actually one that you can detect fairly easily. So the Washington Post kind of did an analysis of this one. But once again, you see these things that are fed into something like Facebook. Well, it just is a confirmation bias for some people that this particular candidate does not speak well, nor is very intelligent, which I would say that whether you like this candidate or not, that is really that's not one of the things you can say about this candidate. But you might that might be something that actually people will believe if they're already kind of in their filter bubble, right? So this one is fairly easy to detect. I'm going to show you two examples of what I consider very good examples of the use of deep fakes to try and manipulate people's perceptions. Let me see. I'm going to have to pull up a different page here. And so I'm going to share this other screen. This is on X, formerly Twitter.
Is the world's biggest cheerleader.
And what they've done here is they've taken an actual video, a campaign video of Jill Biden talking about her husband, and then they have altered just the audio portion. Okay, so we don't have those artifacts that are in the video itself, and have spliced in other video images so you don't see the difference between what her lips are doing and what is being said. So they do line it up several times so that they can show First Lady Biden, Dr. Biden.
My name is Jill Biden, and I want to tell you about my husband, Joe. Joe is the world's biggest cheerleader for the atrocities happening now in Gaza.
The United States stands with Israel.
Okay, this is probably a very effective use of AI. Jill Biden did not say that, but it makes us believe that she did. Once again, kind of trying to go into that filter bubble and kind of confirm things or maybe help people get nudged into that filter bubble. There's also another case that was particularly disturbing. Oops, I keep on opening up the same link. Let me go back here. There we go. And this was a series of robocalls that were made the night before the election. So coming up in 2 weeks on Monday night, it would be the 4th of November. What's going to happen with these calls? Are we going to see calls made as push polls that are going to have some sort of narrative like this? And this case, it was during the primary in New Hampshire.
Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to reelect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
So once again, here we have a deepfake audio, which is much easier to do and frankly harder to detect the deep fakeness, if you will, because of well, there's simply is not as much data that has to be manipulated, and so it's hard to detect those artifacts. Now, after this came out, the FCC adopted a ruling that clarified that a voice for with AI for robocalls is illegal. Okay, they said that you cannot do that. That is strictly illegal. Um, and but I think the problem is, how do you even detect that, right? You could launch something like this from far away. Russia could do something like this, and that might have a huge effect. Okay, and we know that these elections, because of the way the electoral college works, it may come down to 20,000 votes in one or two areas. So this is how easy it is. Once again, I'm going to try and take my example. Hopefully it's loaded correctly. I love hedgehogs. I think they are so cute. Okay, so I'm saying I love hedgehogs. That is actually what I said. And then here is, I hate hedgehogs. I think they are so ugly. So I was saying that I hate hedgehogs. And so that's a manipulated audio of myself. Once again, just showing how easy it is to make those changes and to make it sound like I'm saying something that I would never say. Now, what is the effect on this? Well, there's lots of effects. You can imagine the direct effects, but there's also an effect on the people that are liars actually getting some benefit for there being all this confusion out there. Let's say that I accidentally, or not accidentally, let's say that I said that I hated hedgehogs in a very private meeting. And then this got released to the press. All I could do is I could say, hey, that was just a deep fake, right? So this is known as the liar's dividend. Okay. So we just say, oh, that was actually a deep fake. That was not me. Okay. So that would help me by invoking the authors of this paper said by invoking informational uncertainty or by encouraging oppositional rallying of core supporters. That would be the benefit that liars get. Okay. So we can tell the masses that, hey, this is probably just a deep fake, or this is a deep fake. And I can tell my supporters that no, that was a deep fake. Now, there's another particular example that I have to mention because it was of the effects of deep fakes in our information. That is the backlash. There was a one particular presidential candidate, President Trump, that I guess tweeted or X'd or something. I don't know all the terms nowadays. I got off those systems a long time ago. Truth, I guess, on Truth Social, that Taylor Swift, this businesswoman, was endorsing him. And so she actually took to Instagram, I guess, and said that no, she was going to vote for the other candidate. And in fact, in her explanation of why she actually came out to endorse a candidate, I think she would rather have sat this one out. She said, well, it's because of the fact that there are these deep fakes out there that are saying otherwise. There's also all sorts of other ways that deep fakes can be used. It's been used against journalists. Often this case was a woman that was had what we call non-consensual pornography created of herself, where it swapped her face onto that of a pornographic actor and was doxxed at the same time. And this was in a country that was not very was very dangerous for that to happen, shall I say. So that's a big, real problem. And here in the U.S., how are deepfakes regulated? Well, it varies, unfortunately, state by state. Our federal government has not been very good about working with technology legislation. We still nearly over 30 years in, we still don't have, since the creation of World Wide Web, we really don't have any sort of right to privacy yet. Okay. So the other thing that might be used in the election is just the use of these large language models. Now, large language models are a subset of that deep learning that I showed earlier. And these large language models mimic human understanding of language. Okay, so these are things like Chat GPT, Gemini, those types of systems. How they work is pretty interesting. What they do is they break words up into tokens. They hoover up vast amounts, billions and billions of sentences. They then analyze those sentences and try to figure out what is the relationship between this word, for example, work, and other words. And then it comes up with kind of a dictionary, if you will, that says here are all the places where the word work was found next to another word. It turns out work polka is not that common, but work style is more common. And what it does is it actually then works out kind of a vector or a statistical analysis between to quantify that relationship between words. Once again, it's doing this at a scale that's really hard for us to comprehend. So ChatGPT is, one of the worst named products in the world, but very popular. You chat with it, you enter natural language into it. Generative means it generates something new. Pre-trained means that it has hoovered up a lot of stuff. And transformers, all that kind of math that happens. Okay, so hopefully you've used ChatGPT. If not, I suggest you try it. But you can certainly see how this can also be used to create massive amounts of blog posts, of Facebook posts, of Instagram posts that have a certain worldview or certain point of view. There's also some software called Fraud GPT. Okay, so you can in fact roll your own, if you will, your own generative AI system, and you can have it do things that ChatGPT would not do. So that's kind of the presentation I had. Oh, there's one other slide I wanted to share with you, and that is will hopefully give you a little bit of relief from being worried about this. And that is the fact that excuse me. While certainly there may be some effect of AI, it's probably not going to be a major factor, okay, in determining the outcome of the election. I say that now. We'll know we won't know in 2 weeks. We'll know in 3 or 4 weeks. But I think most everybody has their mind made up. Also, there are tried and true ways to suppress voters, to trick voters, to misinform voters for your advantage. And I don't see that those bad actors that like to do such things are going to veer away at the last moment and try some newfangled technology. So I think that while this is definitely a big concern, and I could see a lot of rogue folks using this technology this election cycle. It's really, I think, these filter bubbles and other things farther down the line that we have to worry about. So if there are any questions, I know we have 2 different chat channels here, but you can type them in. I don't see that any have come in. It looks like we still have 5 people or so on the live stream, and we got Jason here on the Zoom. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or I can let you go. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you being here. This will be posted on the YouTube channel, and please consider making a donation to the Alfred Friendly Press Partners. I will put a link on YouTube as well. Thank you very much, Jason, and we will see you all later.